Thank you, Chair. And could I just begin where you left off, Chair, and say that I concur with your remarks in relation to Senator Carrigy, my colleague, on how he has taken this as his personal crusade on his first term in the Seanad and has achieved so much on it, and it's truly impressive that he has achieved so much in one term in this area. And I know he's particularly committed to it, but his achievements are mammoth here, and well done to Senator Carrigy on that. I'm certainly proud to be a colleague of his. I also would welcome you, Minister, and acknowledge, because I've been at meetings with you, with a number of groups, and I'll allude to some of that in a minute, but I've been at meetings with you and I would acknowledge your absolute commitment to getting this right. And I think nobody can detract from that. And I think that's the fundamental starting point, and I commend you on that. I also join in the welcome to, as I am, in the gallery. It's good to have you here, obviously, as particularly concerned stakeholders, central stakeholders. And I might acknowledge the fact that the Taoiseach has set up within Cabinet a special subcommittee in Cabinet, which is a huge thing, to recognise, if you like, people of different abilities and to see that something is done to support all abilities and people of all diverse abilities. Now, if I could make a few remarks. First of all, obviously, the staffing is a huge issue, the staffing level. And I think, Minister, I'd be so interested in your responses here. I mean, if I can go to the parochial, but I'll only visit the parochial to make the general point. If you take our local CDNT, or based in Enable Ireland out in Rathcorrick in Cavan, you've been there in my own company, and I've met you with groups from that subsequently. In that place now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Minister, but this is on reports to the Parents Forum, there are 14 vacancies for professionals there. That's a very significant thing. With 520 children, the parents would argue, some people would say in excess of 400. There are, at the moment, in that Cavan place, in our local one, and this replicates itself nationally, there are 2 physios, 2 speech and language therapists, 5 OTs, no psychologist, a 0.5 of a social worker, which is the social worker matters to the parents. In total, with taking various ancillary staffs, etc., and support workers, 17 staff with that numbers in Rathcorrick and Cavan, and there are currently 14 vacancies. And what I'd like to hear from you, Minister, in relation to the 14 vacancies, how do you propose, and how does the government propose, to get a feeder situation upward that the professionals will become available? How do we make working here more attractive? How do we bridge the final divide between the Section 39 workers and the HSE workers? How do we smooth that one out? And what do we do here? Now, I'd say, and we don't want to get too lateral here, but I do think that housing is an issue here in the terms of costs here and attracting professionals to stay here. And I think that there is a case where you have institutions and where you have places and available land and sites for young people, and certainly I think this should be done on hospitals for student nurses, there is potential to create local purpose-built accommodation that it was used for generations and could work. But certainly imaginative, we have to go on solving the housing problem as a holistic issue. Of course we do. But I want to ask your opinion, Minister, on the housing problem as it's relevant to this question. And are there any things we could do here to make it attractive for professionals, to come here? And there's an issue with retention of professionals as well, Minister, and a lot of attrition here. And I'm not sure, Minister, that there's enough assessment. There's a technical term for this, where they evaluate why, an exit poll they call it. I only understood that to be to do with the elections, but an exit poll, I gather, is where you ask a professional, why are you leaving? What are you going for? And you analyse that and you try to address that. So staffing is huge, Minister. I'd like you to respond to staffing in the particular, in my instance, and in the general, as a general thing. Now, if I could move from staffing, obviously, I did mention the Section 39. I want to, if I could mention the assessments. There's the waiting list, if I understand it correctly, Minister, they have improved somewhat. But if my information is correct, and I'd be delighted to be proven wrong, nobody wants to be right about this stuff, that you can still wait from 6 to 9 to 10 months. And that's too long for an assessment, and that only the rich can access them privately. And Senator Carrigy did say one of the recommendations of the report was to provide money to help people access them privately and supplement maybe, and if imaginative responses could be looked at there. That's the second thing. One thing, and I'm finishing because my time is restricted, but I think the primary school units for autism, I find them brilliant. I'm a former primary teacher myself. I go to the openings of them and to the sensory rooms and stuff. I think they're extraordinarily good and they're extraordinarily effective. We need those at second level too. We have some at second level, and then we do need the progression to third level. So look, I'm interested in your responses on the specifics and the General Minister, and hopefully a good discussion can arise. And I do think there's not one person in the country that's totally committed to this. And I think at a time of when we are, through prudent management of the economy over years, we now have the money to do it. I think the money should be thrown at this problem, insofar as money will resolve it. But there are other issues as well. Thank you.